Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Math with Dr. War. In a recent video, I brought you the very sad news that the Tasc test was being phased out in New York State. And I know that many of you have test dates in November and December to actually pass your Tasc test and actually pass the math section of your Tasc test. So in these 2 months that are remaining before the test is completely gone, I'll be doing a math video every day, Monday to Friday, to get folks ready and prepared to take their tests. This first video, which is solving quadratic equations, I know it says functions, but sometimes they use the word functions, sometimes they use the word equations. And on the Tasc test, you have to be able to solve quadratic equations graphically and algebraically. Now, graphically is the easiest ones. So I have 2 questions here. It says a quadratic function is shown on the graph at the right. You always know a quadratic function because it looks like a U. So it looks like a U, or it looks like an upside down U. When it's upside down, it means this is a negative function. This is a positive function. And this one says, what are the zeros of the function shown on the graph? When they say zeros, they want to know where your graph crosses the x-axis. So your graph crosses the x-axis here and here. And what are those values? So this is the origin. So if you go to the right, 1, 2, 3. So that's a positive 3. And if we go here to the left, 1, 2, that would be a negative 2. So your answer is D. Now, sometimes they might write it as a point. Remember, a point is x comma y. Now, because this is cutting the x-axis, it means that negative 2 is your x value. Therefore, your y value is 0. Therefore, over here, this could be written as 3 comma 0. Let's try another one. It says the quadratic equation y equals negative. Notice this is negative x squared. Whenever it's a negative function, you have an upside down u. And don't worry about this. A lot of students get freaked out when they see the equation. So yeah, they told me what it is, so what? What is the question asking you? It says, what are the zeros? Again, the zeros are where your graph cuts the x-axis, which is right here and right here. So this is the origin, so I'm going to the right, 1, 2, so that's a positive 2. If you write it as a point, it's 2 comma 0. If I go to the left, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Because you went to the left, it's a negative 4. And if you wrote that as a point, it's negative 4 comma 0. So you're looking for 2 with negative 4. So your answer A. Now, what happens when they ask you to solve your quadratic function or equation algebraically? So this is where the tough part comes in, because this one is a little bit more work. So here it says which equation could be used to find the zeros of y equals x squared minus 3 minus 4. So they want it as an equation. So here it's like, okay, and I'm not going to say this scary word a lot of people don't like to hear. You have to factor. This negative 4 here, let me put a little bubble around it, is your product. And the negative 3 here would be your sum. So I'm going to use the answers to help me. Here, if I took negative 3 and positive 1 and I multiplied it, I get negative 3. I don't get negative 4. A is not my answer. If I take 4 and multiply it by negative 1, I get negative 4. Great. Now, if I add these numbers, would I get negative 3? So if I take 4 and add it to negative 1, the signs are different, so I would subtract. And I'll keep the sign at a larger number, so that's a positive. B is not my answer. Let's look at C. So C, I have negative 4, and a positive 1. Notice what's happening here is that the signs have been switched. This would give me negative 4. And if I add negative 4 with a positive 1, because the signs are different, I would subtract and I'll keep the sign of the larger number. Notice I get my negative 3. So here's the negative 4, here's the negative 3. My answer is C. Let's look at the second question. Which quadratic equation will have solutions for 4 and negative 6? So the first thing I'm going to do with this is I'm going to write it as an equation. Because this is the solution, I'm going to have x. Now I can't use 4. I'm going to use the opposite. So this is going to be x minus 4. And then I'm going to have x. Now I can't use minus 6. I'm going to have to use the opposite. So it'll be plus 6. Okay, so we're going to do something along the lines of what we did with our first question. So remember, this is our product and this is our sum. Now if I take negative 4 and times it by positive 6, I'm going to get negative 24. A could be my answer. I'm going to eliminate B because that has positive 24, and I'm going to eliminate C because that also has positive 24. So my answer is either A or D. Now we have the product, we have to get the sum. So I'm going to take negative 4 and I'm going to add it to 6. Because the signs are different, I'm going to subtract, which gives me 2. Keep the sign of the larger, so my answer is a positive 2. So my answer is D. So in this question, we had to work backwards. We had the solution, so I had to take the solution, write it as an equation, and because I'm doing that, you have to do the opposite. That's a plus 4. You have to put minus 4 when you're connecting it to the x. So that's a negative 6, that's a plus 6. Then when I have my equation, I'm going to find a product. Product means multiply. So I'm going to multiply negative 4 with the positive 6. That gives me negative 24. I was able to eliminate B and C. And then to find my answer, I just needed to find the sum of the two numbers, which is a positive 2. So here it says the formula HS. So you have HS equals 42s minus 12s squared can be used to calculate the height of a ball thrown straight up into the air at an initial velocity of 42 feet per second. How many seconds after the ball is thrown S will it take for the ball to hit the ground? When the ball hits the ground, it's going to give you a height of 0. So in order to solve this, one of these is the answers. So I'm going to take this and replace it wherever I see S. And if I get a 0, it means that's my answer. So I'm going to take 42, and this is my S, so this will be 3.5 minus 12, and then this will be 3.5 all squared. Now, from looking at this question, I can tell you right away this will be a calculator question. So I'm going to get my calculator. Let's clear this. So 42, open the parentheses, 3.5, close the parentheses. I'm going to subtract 12, and in the parentheses, 3.5. Let's close it and square it. And notice when I hit enter, what do I get? 0. Which means my answer is A. The last one we have here, and I really don't know if you're going to see this on your test, and it says a student was given the equation x squared plus 6x minus 13 equals 0 to solve by completing the square. Now on the task test, they do have completed the square, but I don't teach it because I always tell my students, your aim is not to get 100%. Your aim is to get at least half of the questions correct, because you just want to pass. You want to get 500. So if you see a question like this and it's one of those fill-ins, you just say, God bless you, and move on. But I'm going to solve it today. So you want to complete the square, and they say the first step is written. So they wrote x squared plus 6x equals to 13. So basically, they took this 13 over here. And if you take something over the equal sign, the sign changes. So it was negative on the left, so when you took it to the right, it became a positive. So they're saying they want you to make a perfect trinomial. And in order to make a perfect trinomial, you're going to take this number here, which is the 6, right? And you want to divide it by 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. And then they said a perfect square. So that's your hint. You're going to square that. And 3 squared is what? 9. So your answer is 9. Let's find 9 and fill it in. Okay, so this is day 1. And we are solving quadratic equations. We did them graphically, which is easy, and algebraically, which is a little tad difficult for some of these questions. I hope this was helpful, and if you have a test date coming up soon, good luck. I'll see you all tomorrow, and remember, we're doing math every day because we want to pass our math test before it's phased out. Have a great day, folks.